Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on this Friday afternoon. And the first Friday of July, can you believe it? Sure. I don't know where time has gone. These last 90 days is basically a blur from my point of view. It's gone so quickly. And I don't know if you experience the same. But yeah, just one day after the next, every time my eyes go it's like, it's Friday. So, but very happy to be here, very happy to have made another week. And as I say, thank you so much for joining Michelle and I. I'm very happy to have Michelle Hoskin with me. She is the founder of Standards International in the UK, and she does some fantastic work with, specifically in financial services. I think she also works in other industries, but she's got a big love for what it is that we do, and she's been involved and spoken on a lot of stages and things. So very excited to have her with us and to share some of her insights and wisdom and just her vision, for where are we going and how can we get there? Because she believes that what we are setting out to achieve is a lot of us talking about what we want to achieve, and she believes it's absolutely possible. So that's fantastic, and really looking forward to have a discussion with Michelle today. Guys, but as I said, very welcome. I just want to quickly pop in and say hi. So we've got a few people here with us in the show, or on the live chat rather. So I've got Chart and Elmine and Malcolm and Casper. Ross, nice to see you here again. Leona Davis, good afternoon, Leona, welcome. Johan Vosloo daar in Berlin. Nadia Domingo, Nadia, thank you very much. I think we connected recently, so thank you very much for being here today. I appreciate it. I've got Carol. Carol's been talking to me a lot, so Carol, thank you very much. Razan, good afternoon. Denise, Francis, very nice to have you here, Francis. Jy gaan hierdie geniet, so you're going to enjoy this very much. And thank you very much for being here. All right, so just some quick housekeeping before I introduce Michelle to you and welcome her to the show. And we need to give her a lovely warm South African welcome, although it's winter here. Is that please, if you're new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. We're growing slowly but surely. When we started this, we were on 79 subscribers in March or in April, was end of March. Today we're on 510, I think. So please join, and it costs nothing. It is just so that you are notified whenever we release new content or when we go live with guests, that you get those notifications. And there's a whole host of things that we've been planning now for a long time. Obviously, the show is keeping me very busy at the moment, but definitely some interesting things that are coming to this channel, some more value adds and things over and above the show. So that's that. And then please help us let everybody know that we're here and that we're busy talking and really adding a lot of value. So please like, share, and comment on this video. If you're over on LinkedIn, you can also do that, whether you're watching the recording or you're watching live, it doesn't matter. And then very importantly, please interact with one another in the chats. It's great to build those relationships and form relationships. And also, you have this opportunity to have Michelle to yourself for the next hour or so. And, ask questions. If you want to ask things, I think what she wants to share with us is going to blow your mind. But then use this opportunity to ask some questions. We're definitely going to get to the questions in the end. So that's that from me. Good afternoon. I've got Norma here, and I've got Dani and Frederick as well that has joined us. But ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I'm very happy this afternoon to welcome Michelle Hoskin all the way from the UK. Luckily, she didn't have to get up too early. So, Michelle, welcome to the show, and thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. It's great to see so many people chatting and interacting already. So it's wonderful. I'm so pleased to be with you.
It's awesome. It's a little bit different from webinars and those kind of things, because I guess you've been doing some of those as well, right?
Yeah, lots. Being locked in my house has given a huge amount of opportunity to just do so much stuff live and and so much remotely, and so obviously the reach is further, so it's fab. It's great.
Yeah. And how have you experienced this, by the way, Michelle? So we didn't talk about this when I spoke to you earlier in the week. Is like, I mean, what has this meant for you? Like being locked down, and I don't know to what extent you've been locked down in the UK. But what is this? Has this been good for you in your business? Has it been good for your mind? Has it opened new opportunities for you, or how did you experience this?
So I'm one of those people that, whilst I was really keen not to kind of be so positive about COVID and the pandemic, because obviously there was a massive impact, people dying all over the world, right? But for me, my life was a little bit crazy before, and has sort of since, probably for the last 10 years or so, been extremely busy, lots of travel, a busy business. I'm a mom, Ruby is 9 now, so there's an awful lot going on in my life. And I think what lockdown did was it just took the batteries out, I suppose, of my life. And to be honest, it did me the world of good. Like, it's meant that Ruby and I have spent lots of time together. I focused on my well-being, my health, my fitness. And whilst all those things were obviously quite a big thing for me before, as they should be, obviously being effectively locked in at home, has meant that, all these things have been emphasized obviously quite a bit more. So I've loved it. I have to say, and one of the conversations I was having with a girlfriend recently was, going forward, I almost want to create like mini lockdowns throughout the rest of my life, so that, really we have an opportunity to just take the batteries out. And it's been great. And I've had so much time at home with Ruby, which has been fabulous. I've loved it.
Oh, that's amazing. And I like this idea about like have these mini lockdowns for yourself. Yeah. I think previously we called them sabbaticals.
Yeah, now they're lockdowns. The new term is now a lockdown.
It's more serious now. It's more defined. So that's amazing. No, that's good stuff. Michelle, just tell us a little bit about what it is that you do, and how did you come about to start Standards International? What is it that you do in in the business, and then just we'll get into the rest of the discussion.
Yeah, so obviously Little Miss Wow. So primarily my job is to travel around, engage with financial planning practices, and just almost show them and be a beacon of light for how things can be done better. And many financial planners who run businesses, as we know, don't necessarily approach them as business owners. They approach them and think very much in terms of the financial planner advisor mindset. So my thing is to really just get them really excited about, not just having a financial planning practice, but having a business in financial services. So that keeps me busy. It takes me to amazing countries. I get to share my insights and ideas on stage and, from a stage. But Standards International as a business is effectively a standards body. So, it's very traditional in its sort of setup, but quite innovative and creative in its approach. And we set and then train and assess financial professionals and their businesses against British sector and international standards. And the things that have kept me out of trouble over the recent years is obviously designing many of those standards, British and international standards. So, my insights have been sought when it comes to, what's the best operating model? How should an amazing financial planning business operate, run, and be built? And so I've obviously been involved in some wonderful projects, which, I've said before, will probably, really take hold past my lifetime. So, I'm really trying to make an impact as much as I can, so it keeps me out of trouble.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. And I obviously, I was going through my mind at this in the second is, so you refer quite heavily to financial planning businesses. Often you find where somebody's like an independent financial advisor, it's maybe just them and one staff, or maybe two staff members that assist them. And I think often they don't think about their business as a business.
No.
Maybe they think more about it as a job. So do you help them equally as much as the bigger businesses? Is there like a distinction between like you can add more value to certain ones, or is there something that anybody can really go and implement? Doesn't matter how big or how small you are.
Well, I suppose one of the things is this. I mean, I've been doing this for over 20 years. So, I started in financial services as a coach and as a consultant when I was 19, and I was such a baby, really. What did I know 20 years ago? Well, at the time, I thought I knew a lot, but not in comparison to sort of the stuff that I do now. But what I would say is, I think all the principles that we'll share today and the stuff that I talk about all the time, because it's very much centered around the owner, the planner, the advisor, so much of this stuff can be implemented regardless of the size of their, let's call it an operation, regardless of how big or small that is. It could be one person and an assistant. It could be, one owner, 10 advisors and 25 administration staff. It doesn't matter. The principles are the same and can be totally applied to any size of business in any country. And I've obviously tested that from, speaking to different audiences, from having a financial planner come up to me that's got 400 staff to a financial advisor that's just got him and his wife working for him or with him. So I know this stuff is so transferable, which is why sometimes, I'll say to audiences all over, what I might say to you may be way more than you can actually comprehend at the moment. But what I want you to be able to take away is stuff that you can then apply when you're ready. So write lots of notes and take lots of stuff down, because, so often I get planners, and owners of businesses come up to me and say, oh my God, I wish I met you 20 years ago. Now, I'm not sure whether they want to take me on a date and wish they'd met me 20 years ago, or they just wish in their businesses that they'd had that input earlier, so that they didn't spend the next 20 years kind of doing it wrong, or making silly mistakes, which was so preventable. And that's the stuff that I share.
That's great. And I think when you get 20 years down the line, and even here in South Africa, we hear that so often, where advisors saying, oh, I wish I knew this when I started, or I wish I knew this, as you said, 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. And there's two things that if they don't, it's now changing the business. So changing direction is quite a mission. And then secondly, to unlearn all these weird and wonderful habits that you've now learned. And if you have to change those, so it's not easy. But what you just said now, also it applies equally as well to your life than to your business. And that is the amazing part for me, is like, sometimes we get all this input and we know all these things, or we hear all these things and we go like, it's very overwhelming, it's too much. But maybe just focus on what is the one thing or the two things that's going to make us a significant difference right now, and then just start with that and know that there's lots more.
Absolutely. And fundamentally, the most important part of any business and any financial planner is themselves. I mean, over the last 20 years, I've heard and seen some horrendous situations where, advisors, planners have just not focused on themselves. Because as a profession, a global profession, one of the beautiful things about it is the impact that we have on other people's lives as planners and advisors. We change lives. There's no two ways about it, right? But the problem is that when planners and advisors do that so well, because they're giving all of themselves to doing that, often what happens is they forget about the most important person of all, and that's themselves. And that's when their health suffers, their relationships suffer, their well-being suffers, because they've actually focused more on putting everyone else's oxygen mask on and have forgotten about themselves. And we all know what they say when you get on an aeroplane, right? So that's the biggest thing, and it's having that constant reminder of, hang on a minute, I love my clients. And in a profession in an industry where you guys have been told to put clients at the center of the universe, I would argue every day of the week that that's not right, honestly, because the most important person that should be at the center of the universe is yourself, probably over your family in some cases, because if you're not okay, nothing's okay. So, that for me is and I've had full-grown men in tears. Their wives are, their relationships are broken down. Their children don't know them because they've not spent time with them, and. I mean, the stories go on, but it's that you've got to focus on 100% your own well-being. That's it.
Yeah, it's extremely important, and I think it was in the week. It was in this week. Time flies so quickly. It could have been a month ago, but it feels like it was in this week. I saw something where somebody said, like, you should be building your business around your lifestyle and not your life around your business.
Yeah,
kind of thing. And I think that's what we all do, is we build this business, and then everything else needs to fit in with that, instead of doing it the other way around. And I think if you do it the other way around, you may very well be putting yourself a lot higher on that. If not first, at least very high on that ladder.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many things that play a role. So let's get a little bit into the business side of this, and how do we build this business that really like rocks? Where does passion fit into all of this? There's purpose, and there's drive, and there's ambition, and there's all these good things. But passion is really the thing, I think, that is needed to really ignite all of this stuff. But in your view, how important is passion?
Gosh, I mean, having energy having energy, therefore having passion. It just unleashes your power. Like, you know, I mean, you know, there's, you know, we've got Kerbis on, you know, watching us live. You know, he's probably one of the most passionate financial planners I have ever met in my life, and I've met a lot of them. And why is that so important? Because to be in financial services, you have to love it. You have to love it more than life itself, because it's such an impactful industry and a profession and a business that you've got to love it. And, you know, when I look at the most successful firms, planners, team members, you know, that work in these practices, it's because they're successful because they love their job. Like, they can't imagine working in any other industry, doing anything else. You know, they want to bounce out of bed every morning. They feel like they've been shot out of a rocket as opposed to shot by a rocket. And, you know, they're energized and they're passionate and they're infused, and they just ooze these positive vibes. And, you know, the flip side of that, when I've gone in and worked with practices, is when you see people that are just like, well, yeah, it's a job, and you know, it's kind of, I do it because I can make good money, or, you know, I do it because I can. And it's just like, no, absolutely not. And I often, you know, will say, working in financial services is like midwifery. You know, it's like a calling. It's like working for the NHS. I mean, you know, look at the nurses and the stuff that's been going on because of COVID. You know, these people are doing these jobs not because they get loads of money, because they don't. They do it because it's part of who they are. And, you know, anybody that's in financial services today that doesn't love it, like, and I mean love it, they need to leave, because their heart's not in it. You know, how do you, well, there was one time I remember I was asked to speak at a conference, and the theme of this conference was energizing advice. That was the theme, energizing advice. And when the guy who was, when the guy that was organizing it was like, you know, this is the theme, and I was like, right. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do? He said, I want you to, you know, energize advice. And I went, well, there's only one way we energize advice, is by energizing the advisors. And those in the audience need to literally want to be bouncing out of this room, making a difference in the lives of themselves, their families. They need to love this. They need to love the job, you know, and therefore they need to be surrounded by people that love the job equally as much. And often, which is one of the pains, is planners don't surround themselves with people that love this job as much as they do, and that's where you get a massive conflict. Ultimately, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, that's a powerful statement. And which do you think is more important? And, you know, I mean, obviously in your personal opinion, but I mean, a lot of people say you need purpose. The first thing you need to do in life, and I've said this to my children as well. So, like, the first thing is, like, you need to figure out what's your purpose. You know, and then you get to 23 and you still haven't figured it out, and you think like, I don't have one. I'm stuffed. You know, but which one is more important, having passion or having a purpose? Which one do you feel is more important? I know they're both important, but which one do you think is a little bit more important?
Well, look, you know, if you take me as a person, so if you speak to my mom, right, and my dad, they will tell you that at 6 years old, I was standing at a bus stop, you know, chatting away and being lovely and friendly and energized and passionate, and, you know, a little firecracker at 6 years old to total strangers. Now, at 6 years old, you know, you look at my daughter today, she's 9. My daughter doesn't know, you know, what her purpose is in life. And actually, does it matter? Probably not. So, but she's passionate and she's infused and she's energized. So that is kind of level one, right? But as I got older, do I think I stand here and go, absolutely, I know what my purpose in life is? I've got lots of them: to be a great mom, to bring up a great little girl, to change the face of financial services, change the world one financial advisor at a time. I've got lots of purposes. But the fundamental thing is, I don't think we should get all bent out of shape over the fact that we don't know what our purpose is. It's important, and only because it's like your destination. It's like the reason you get out of bed every morning. And I remember probably only in my, let's say it's my mid-20s, late 20s, I remember I was actually driving to an airport, and I remember saying to myself, as you kind of daydream and as you're driving, you know, potentially going through red lights because you didn't see the traffic lights even in front of you as you're driving. I was having one of those days. And I remember thinking, I want to be instrumental in positively changing financial services forever. And that was it. Purpose established. But do you know what? That's in my brain, and I can recite it to you just like that. But do I get all, you know, bent out of shape about it? No. Is it a big fancy thing that is in my life? No. It's just there. So I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I could tell you hundreds of stories. I remember, last August going over to Australia, and I was speaking for the AFA conference, at the AFA conference, and the trip fell over my daughter's birthday. So when I knew what the dates were, I was like, oh God. So I went home and I said to Ruby, Mummy's been asked to do this. If you don't want me to go, I won't. That's the deal. You're 9. Her birthday's an important day for me and her. And she said, well, what are you going to talk about? And I said, well, Mummy's going to talk about well-being, and Mummy's going to talk about the fact that, there's a lot going on in Australia, and there's a lot of advisors very upset about the Royal Commission. And I kind of dumbed it down and explained it to her. And sadly, Ruby, financial advisors are actually killing themselves. Like, many of them are committing suicide, which is true. And she said, well, Mummy, you must go. So what I've tried to do, even at kind of what is my purpose, I've used it to explain to Ruby why Mummy goes to work, and why sometimes Mummy doesn't come home for a week because Mummy's doing this. So it's in my mind's eye all the time, but it's not something I get hung up about. It's just something that I do, and we've all got probably that. So just don't overthink it. Just keep it in your mind's eye, and have it as that driver to get you out of bed every morning. But, some people don't find it until they're 40. I've got people in my life who are still trying to find it. Yeah. But if they're passionate about every day, does it matter? They're making a difference, right?
Well, I was one of those that sort of figured out at 40, started figuring out at 40. So, so that's good. It's okay. That's the one thing I learned, that there is no date, there is no time frame, there is no nothing. It is just like, and I think maybe sometimes it's about figuring out what's really important to you. Because if you figure out what's really important to you, that's what gives you purpose at the end of the day. But you need the passion, because if there's no passion and no energy, it's got to be.
I remember doing. I did quite a bit of yoga a couple of years ago, and my yoga teacher, she was very in tune with her inner self, right? And I just loved being with her because she was so grounded and connected and very spiritual. And she said to me, Michelle, she said, the thing I love about you, she said, you do everything with joyful effort. And she sort of gazed at me over the yoga mats, and I was just like, yes, I do actually, don't I? I do everything with joyful effort. But I think if we do that, if we can have a smile on our face and love what we're doing and do it with joyful effort. And she said, I bet you even clean the toilets with joyful effort. And I was like, well, I don't think I'd go that far, but I'm with you. I'm with you where you're going. So,
even noticed, maybe, but no.
I don't think I'm smiling when I'm doing that job, I have to say.
Yeah, no, that's one of those jobs that needs to be outsourced.
It does, yeah.
Michelle, so tell me a little bit. We titled this episode about the proven principles for perfection, and obviously around the talk that you do and all that kind of stuff as well. But in that you talk about, like, there are like 8 pains that we experience in our businesses and things that are holding us back. Can we talk a little bit about that? Let's get a little bit into the pains before we get to the joys later on. So let's talk a bit about the pains, and maybe the ones that you think are the biggest ones, because obviously they're all there, but which ones are the ones we need to be looking out for?
Yeah, I will. So one of the things I'll just say before, because I think this is equally as important. So where the principles and these pains came from was, I was once invited into a firm, very well established, very entrepreneurial, hugely successful, award-winning. And I remember sitting in the reception area with my coffee, waiting to go into the meeting. And I was there for the whole day. I'd been invited in to sort of try and fix some stuff. Didn't know what needed to be fixed. And I remember sitting in this reception thinking, what on earth am I doing here? I remember at sort of 32 having an absolute crisis of confidence, thinking, God, they've hired the wrong person, surely. Like, what on earth do they need me for? So I walked into this meeting room, I sit down, and I said, so how are you? What's going on? How are things? And probably for the next hour and a half, the 3 directors literally just spilled their guts over me in terms of everything that was going wrong. And there was lists of stuff, all these issues and symptoms of problems and pains and frustrations. And they literally just went for me. They just poured it all out. Well, I was a bit taken back because of how I'd gone into this meeting with this mind that this was this perfect practice on paper, and the awards cabinet would suggest so. And I just started writing all these things down. And when, as they were talking, what I found myself doing was circling them and batching them together. And effectively, they came under 7 headers, which I'm going to run through very quickly. But then what I did was I then took those 7 panes and created 8 panes, and then I created 8 principles. So 8 things that they needed to do to fix all of the problems they were telling me they had. And that was where the 8 principles were born. So the pain, so what were they saying to me? Well, first of all, they were saying the team don't understand us. There's no buy-in. You know, they don't understand why we get frustrated when things go out with errors on it. You know, they don't appreciate the value we're adding. They're just not on the same page. They're not motivated. Basically, they were just sitting there slagging their whole team off effectively, right? And basically, they had no buy-in. The team were not bought in to the bigger picture, to what the firm was trying to do. They just had no idea. They were just crunching the numbers, pumping the reports out every day. So that was the first thing. The second thing that was an issue was they didn't have a clue what they were doing. They were 3 financial planners, all came together, and they found themselves with a business. They were all operating all differently under one umbrella, and they had no leadership skills, and they had not set a direction for the business. So they had no idea what they were doing. They had no development skills in the area of business. They were highly educated technically, but basically didn't have an idea of what they were doing in their business. So that was a problem for them. Skills and resources, they didn't have the right people doing the right thing in the right way, in the right jobs. They had hired by accident. They were telling me about, people didn't have the right skills or weren't team players. They basically, the common pain, which is probably one of the biggest, is the wrong people in your kind of crib, right? The wrong people taking care of clients, taking care of you. So skills and resources was a massive problem. They just had no house style. Every client was treated differently. They had no operational procedures. The guys were saying to me, sometimes things happen, sometimes things don't. Sometimes they'll remember, and then sometimes I'll remember at 3 o'clock in the morning when I wake up in a hot sweat and I think, oh my God, we didn't send that out to a client. Everything was a bit piecemeal, a bit higgledy-piggledy, just all over the place. There was no consistency to anything. And they had no idea on the numbers. They had no idea what money was in the bank, what their profit margin was, which clients generated the most revenues. They had no idea, which is ironic given the fact that the profession that we're in, they had no financial plan for themselves, really, or their business, which was a shocking thing anyway, obviously. And the last 2, communication was just awful. They was assuming way too much. They didn't have good meeting structures internally in place. They were delegating at warp speed, dropping stuff in to people in the teams, just terrible delegation. And then finally, they just didn't have the tools in their kit bag to deliver what they needed to do. They didn't have the right IT infrastructure. And this was probably the worst ever case of a terribly run firm I've ever seen ever. Yet outside in the reception was awards floor to ceiling for best investment firm and, all this, that and the other. But actually their business was in absolute tatters. So these were the kind of 8, pains that they were suffering from. And it was bad. These guys were in bits, arguing and nightmare, absolute nightmare.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Yeah. And as you said, there were a couple of guys that came together, and I used to work with a firm like that back years ago when I was still in my hometown, which is far from Joburg. But we there was also what they started doing was bringing together these 3 practices so that they can share back office and save in that way, and then still focus on certain things. And I saw that is also, it seems like it's sort of the same thing that happened here. And everybody comes in with their own way of doing things, but they never sit down and plan, how are we going to run this now as a unit? And I think, and whether I don't know, I want to make this statement to say, it doesn't matter whether you are on your own and you're alone or you are, a bigger business, but you need to go and sit down and think about your business and have processes and things in place. Because if you do it now, it's easier when you want to grow later on. But it's just we're so in this, we financial planners, we financial advisors, and that is what we do. Yeah. And then the rest of the stuff just, must just take care of itself. So, but now, okay, so now we know some of these issues, and I'm pretty sure that there's guys in the audience going That's me. Oops, that's me. I'm going like I'm not even a financial advisor. And I go like, yeah.
Maybe.
So yeah, maybe I must also remember to look at this and this. But anyway, so how do we go about solving these problems? I mean, you said you created these 8 principles, but in a practical way, what are the things? How do we address these problems?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot to share, but what I'll try and do is I'll try and condense it, which goes against me totally because I struggle with putting 10 words into 3. But we'll go for it, right? So the first thing you need to do, regardless of the size of your business, if you're a financial planning professional, you need to identify whether you want a lifestyle practice and business or you want a business that becomes way bigger than you. It's very important because if you don't identify which you want, you're going to have an identity crisis every single day. So you might try and implement business practices and processes, yet actually you have a business model that is centered all around you. Those two things will not work. Straight up, they won't work. So the first thing we do is when we've got firms in a room or in a workshop is I make them think about it. What do you want? Do you want a lifestyle business where it's you? And really, in simple terms, it's not about your lifestyle, really. It kind of is, but when I talk about a lifestyle business, I'm talking about a business that exists only because you do, regardless of your lifestyle, right? If you exist and you've got 5 people working for you, they're not really working with you in a lifestyle business because you drive their workflow, you drive their actions. And let's be honest, if you vanished off the face of the planet, they would too. They would lose their jobs. Yep. Also in a lifestyle business, just to close that off, is when decisions are being made by the owner, the planner, the advisor, they're made on behalf of the best interests of him or herself. So, for example, they'll say, no, we don't want to do seminars because we don't want that many clients, or we don't want to do a seminar in that town because we don't want to have clients in that town. No, what you're saying is you don't want to have clients in that town because you have to travel to them, or you might have to work evenings if you've got more clients. So decisions are made based on the best interests of the person, as in you. That's a lifestyle business. A business is where you could take you out at some point and it would still function. It would still grow. Because everybody, it's like the best relay race ever at the Olympics. It's like, where does the baton get handed over? Everyone runs a lap of that race to win it. And everybody kind of works together. That's a business. You've got to establish that first. And what we had in that scenario, I told you that story, we had 2 guys that wanted a business and one which wanted a lifestyle business. Problem number 1, right? So you fix that, the rest becomes easy. Okay, because then what you basically say is the decisions that you make are constantly benchmarked back to the statement or the question, is this in the best interest of the business? Constantly, is this in the best interest of the business? Yes or no? If it is, you do it. If it isn't, you don't. Regardless of who is happy emotionally about that decision, it's been made in the best interest of the business. So when you can start talking and using that language, everything's easy, down to, should we hire this person? Are they in the best, is that role, are those skills in the best interest of the business? Yes or no? Not, well, do I like them? And do I think I can get on with them? Yes, that's important, but not in a business. It's not. In a lifestyle business, it's 100% important, but not in a growing business, it's not. So that's probably the first thing that then kicks off. In terms of the eight or the principles, I'll just run you through them, but I will pick up on a couple of points that are important in some of those sections. I mean, first of all, yes, you need to understand why you as the owner keeps going. I mean, financial services is probably, it's one of the most regulated professions globally. You've got the regulator and professional bodies literally coming at you all the time. You've got to, like I say, love this profession and industry to do the job, but you've got to understand what gets you out of bed in the morning. Now, so what gets me out of bed in the morning is to, my purpose is to be instrumental in changing financial services. How I do that is another matter. But I've shared my story with my team. I've shared my story with my clients. And when you share your story, the reason you get out of bed every morning, people then can buy into that story. They buy into the vision. They buy into something that's greater than themselves. And Dee, who works in my team, she saw me on stage once, and I remember, I remember the event, and I said to her, in the stage, I was like, I want to be in, I want to change the world one financial advisor at a time. Well, she was like, what? So do I. So the next thing I know, I've got her CV. I've got her CV in my inbox, going, I want to be part of that.
Yeah.
Right. So the purpose piece is important. To not, everyone has to be on the same page. And then when everyone's on the same page, the rest is really easy because they're bought in. So, as a question to the audience, so when you're interviewing clients and interviewing team members, do you share your story with them and ask how they feel about that? Do they feel a connection to that? Is there a shared respect and a shared appreciation for, what we're trying to do here? So purpose is key. Then obviously you've got to have a plan. And what I mean by that is, the second principle is plan, and you have to have goals that literally make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. They have to be scary, right? They have to be big, bold, brave. They have to be adventurous. They have to be a bit disruptive and a little bit kind of, a bit, I don't know, just mischievous probably, but just something that gets everybody a little bit excited. We hear about SMART goals. Well, what a load of rubbish that is. I mean, no one gets excited by SMART goals, do they? Nobody really. No. But I came up with an acronym and I presented it at an MDRT meeting a few years ago. The presentation was setting badass goals. Big, bold, and brave. I can't, and on. But it's right. You've got to set goals and have a plan that just gets everybody really excited. Really excited.
Yeah, I agree. That's cool.
And then the other sort of the next kind of big one, which is obviously number 3, is people. You've absolutely got to surround yourself with the absolute best possible people you can. Never compromise on, who's in your team, both personally and professionally. I was just talking to a friend earlier just about, having the right people around you would just 1 add 1 is 11. 1 add 1 is not 2. So the right people around you just leverage you to achieve something quite incredible. I've got an incredible team. Oh my God, like they're off the scale. But we've lost a few along the way. The right people weren't on the bus. But you've got to surround yourself with the right people doing the right job, with the right enthusiasms and abilities. And, the second you start to compromise, it's game over. Because, if he or she can't do his job properly, that means that somebody else has to pick it up, which means they then can't do their job properly, which means somebody else has to pick up their work. It's a car crash waiting to happen. So the people piece is building the right team. Not for just today, but for the business that you're planning to have, or not hoping to have, planning to have, the business that you've designed for 5 and 10 years' time. So I was running a board meeting for a firm recently, a leadership team day, and I was like, right, what does the business look like in 5 years? Well, we need to start hiring those people today, not in 4.5 years. We need to hire them today with that in mind. So, and we often firms get that all wrong. So we've got to start building, building the right team, the right people, and absolutely the word compromise is an absolute killer. It's like when you have a beautiful punnet of red strawberries and you've got one dodgy one. What happens overnight? They're all flipping mouldy. You wake up and open the fridge and go, God damn! It's the same as a team. Sucking all the energy. So to be honest, there's the others are protection, having procedures in place, which I could talk about all day, having the right pricing strategy, knowing your numbers, having a client proposition, that's scalable, repeatable, that's been packed full of great wow moments. You know, having a marketing pitch, you know, one of the final principles, you know, having a marketing and communications plan, which is, you know, thought through, planned and beautifully executed so that it's consistent in terms of your external voice. And then platform, having the right tools for the job. You're not an IT expert as a financial planner, but IT, it's like someone's chopped your left arm off if your Wi-Fi goes down when you need it, or you're buggered, aren't you, literally? So it's about, you know, it's about having focusing on these principles, and, you know, really, other than the proposition piece, really, none of the others have got anything to do with financial services. They're just business principles. And when you've got a planner trying to run a practice or a business, and they're 80% planner, 20% business owner, and they're literally flying solo at the top of the food chain trying to do it all and fix it all, it's just not possible. It's just not possible. So it's just good business. These are just good business principles, and we've just, you know, put them into a nice, you know, sparkly 8 principles for perfection. Proven as well. Proven.
Yeah. And what I like about principles, I've spoken about this in a few episodes, is that principles stand the test of time. It's not, you know, maybe, and a lot of these principles have been figured out sometimes, you know, long ago, but we need to apply them in the new way, but the principle still remains the same. It's like relationship is always the foundation of business. It doesn't matter whether we do it like this via a screen or whether we do it in person. Relationship is still, you know, we may start the relationship and build the relationship differently, but that principle of a relationship first will never change.
Absolutely.
So that's been very insightful. And I just want to mention to you, like the one thing that sort of now that you started off with, you need to decide whether this is a lifestyle business or a business. And I wanted to ask you, like, but how do you define a lifestyle business? Because obviously in my mind, when I hear the word lifestyle business, the first thing I go to is, I can travel where I want, when I want, I can do what I want. I work two months of the year and the rest I have a holiday. Because I think that's what people think when they hear the word lifestyle business. And I love your definition for this. This is like, you are the business. So you build it around your personal brand. You build it like, if you and I think you summed it out so beautifully. It's like, when you're gone, everything else is gone.
Of course. And let me ask you though, like, how many lifestyle business owners do you know that do exactly what you've just said? Travel lots of time. They don't, unless they're a lifestyle. Oh no, they're literally like chained to the desk. Unless you're a travel blogger with one executive assistant stuck in an office somewhere, that doesn't happen. I don't know any lifestyle business owner that's bouncing around with loads of free time. They have no time, because if they're any good at their job, they're going to be a victim of their own success anyway. And then they feel like they want to serve their clients and all that. So it's just like a hamster wheel that they can't get off. It's not the answer, really.
And this applies to so many types of businesses. It's not only even financial services. So this is amazing. So earlier on, you mentioned about, you know, the person that you know, often gets the short end of the stick is the advisor themselves. And sort of that they should actually be the most important person in the business or in their lives and that, but they don't. We always put ourselves sort of last or very far down the priority list. You know, my wife and I actually had a conversation this morning in the car about certain things, and it sort of boils down to that as well. What pitches where in the list of priorities? But let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, you mentioned now that it's important for the advisor to start putting themselves first. You know, why and what do you mean with that exactly? And how do they go about doing that? Because I think because we're in a profession where we serve, you know, we naturally go to that point where I put myself last.
Yeah, I think, okay, so let's imagine that this is a live stream being watched by every profession and every human on the planet, right? It's actually, I mean, you're right to ask the question the way that you've asked it in terms of, you know, why should advisors put themselves first? But it's actually way bigger than that. We should all put ourselves first. Our well-being and our happiness is fundamental. Like, you know, like life is really flipping short. We know it is. And, you know, we've got very little time to do really what we want in life, in truth, right? So I think ultimately, you know, you take any of us, So we haven't really got time to tell the full story, but in summary, I had a moment when I was about 33 years old, and I walked off stage, and I was at an MDRT conference, and I walked off stage, and I was in Anaheim. And I'd just come off stage talking about how to have a wow life and a wow business and this, that, and the other. And I remember walking off stage thinking, Michelle, you're such a hypocrite, right? Really, like there's bits of your life that aren't great. They wouldn't even be good, never mind wow, right? So I literally walked to the hotel room, got out my posh dress, and I got a little bit of paper out next to the phone and a little pencil, and I wrote down 10 areas of my life. And I said to myself that on the eve of my 40th birthday, what did wow look like in my life in those 10 areas? And that concept has since been created, and which I use when I'm coaching planners and financial services professionals, it's called the future you. So what did I do that day actually? Well, I looked at my life and I had Ruby, I had Martin, who was Ruby's dad. I had a lovely little house. I had a great business, but I wasn't happy. And I was giving everything I had to other people. And I know hundreds of people that do that, or hundreds and thousands of people that do that. And I remember that day, that evening, a planner that I'd met who was from Canada, just randomly, and it's almost crazy how the universe does this. And this guy came up to me and he's like, we were chatting, and he said, are you happy? And I was like, oh, here we go. Oh my God, of all days to ask me this, like, I mean, he's very tall and blonde and good looking, right? But I was like that, I'm not actually, really, I'm not. So I was having this whole conversation with this tall blonde Canadian from Vancouver. And honestly, like, and he just said, are you happy? And I was like, every other day of the week, honestly, I'd have said, yeah, my life is amazing. But this day, I went, no, I'm not. And so what did I do, and what do I encourage everyone to do, is you pick an age or a date in your future where you are sitting, sailing, lying, flying, whatever you're doing, and you can sit there and say, I've cracked it. Every aspect of my life, I'm a success, I'm healthy, I've got money in the bank. And what you do is you literally just, and you can download this workbook from our website, totally free. But what you do is you pick an age or a date in your future and you work through the 10 areas of your life, and you're literally writing down what that future version of you looks like, feels like, is doing, is not doing, right down to the people. You list the people that are in your life. Future you, you're designing the future version of you. And then there's two amazing questions at the end of that exercise, which I asked myself that day, and which was, what people and things are stopping you from becoming the best possible future version of yourself? Question number one. And the second question was, and what are you going to do about it? And that exercise for me meant that I went home from that conference and actually told Martin that I didn't want to be in a relationship with him anymore. There was no affairs, there was no heartbreak. I realized in my future version of myself, Martin wasn't in it. He was a great dad. We're still really great friends. So I made some huge changes to my life. But all of us, when we are happy, when we are living the life that's our best life, everybody is okay. Everybody around us. They might not like it to start with, but for me to be happy, I'm then a much better mom. When I'm well rested and charged up, my clients get the best version of me. And that would be no different to any single person that's watching and would listen to this interview. Like, it's no different. You have to put your oxygen mask on before helping anybody else. It's just the way that it has to be. Selfish, maybe. Self-centered, maybe it's that too. But you know what? I've been living a life very much like that. And it's not all the time. But I can tell you, the planners and advisors that do that, they're just way better for their clients. And most importantly, they then become inspirational to all those around them. I know for a fact that I attract particular clients that want to work with me personally because I work a 3-day week. I feel great. I look fit. I'm healthy. And I don't work any of the school holidays that Ruby is off school. So they want that's inspiring to them, and they want to know how I've done it. If I was overweight, slobby, looked exhausted, it's nowhere near as attractive to be inspired by that. So it's so important. God, I can't stress enough. I hope it's coming across, but it's so, I think, good. It's so important. It's so important.
Yes,
for every reason.
And you used the word inspired a few times now, and often we inspire others through what we do and how we live, not through what we say.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and it's something that it's been a lot on my mind lately. From I always would give you my personal perspective from this, and there's a few of those areas that need serious attention. And that slowly but surely, and I said to a friend of mine in the week actually, that I don't know really why certain things are not as important to me as they should be, because I know they should be important. But why is that? I guess it's just a journey, and it's incredible to hear that story. Like you walk out of that stage and say, this is not right. I'm not even living the things that I'm preaching. And then to have the guts to go and make these changes, I think, well, first of all, to go and look at what should it look like, and then to make these changes, because those are not easy changes to make. So
one of the first things that I always ask, when I know if I've got a planner client who's in a relationship, normally they're men, of course, because we're a male-dominated profession generally, and I'll say, when was the last time you had a date day? Like, when was the last time you took your wife on a date? And they'll be like, what's a date? And I go, there we go. Problem number one, right? So we help them structure their worlds and their lives to have date days, not just dates, date days. When the children are at school, they do, so I've got clients having Friday date days, Friday fun days with their wives and their partners, and I've had wives message me and literally said, I don't know what you've done, but thanks.
Awesome.
Because we've been on dates and snogged and everything, proper, like we're kids. It's good. So we give up so much. But you just said it's interesting. You just said you don't know why things aren't as important to you. But that's at the moment. If we had this conversation in 6 months' time, those other things that might not be important to you now might have gone straight to the top of your agenda. The point of the exercise is that you repeat this exercise. I mean, I do that exercise probably every 3 to 6 months to make sure that I'm balanced. All aspects of my life are in balance, are in flow. Otherwise, work gets busy or there's too much homeschooling going on and I get all out of sync. We should all be doing this all the time.
Yeah. Well, that was amazing conversation. There's one thing that I still want to ask you about, something that's totally unrelated to what we've been discussing, but it is something. Yeah, so I actually don't want to ask you this now anymore because it feels like it doesn't fit into this conversation at all.
Fine, go for it.
Yeah, but it's I just want to say, I think this was such a worthwhile conversation, Michelle, because I think what we need to realize is that we are business owners, and even if you're working for a product provider and you're an agent, as we call them, or whether you run your own business, it doesn't matter. You're still in that role of a practice owner, or you're still building something, and you need to be very clear on that. So I found this very, very insightful, even in my business. But the thing that I do want to ask you about, so let's just quickly do that, because I do want to talk a little bit about Standards International. I also want to talk about, you've got a workshop, I think, that's coming up in October called the WOW Workshop. So I want to talk about that quickly because we've got 7 minutes. So I do want to talk about that.
We need the whole day.
So you've got 1 minute to wow us with that. And then oh gosh, what was the other thing? But anyway, but let's talk about those. Let's just start off with that quickly. So in Standards International, obviously you create all these standards, and I know you've got a lot of documents that's available. I was on your website and I saw there was a few things that's available at no cost. And then there are certain things that obviously you have to purchase. You also wrote a book. You co-authored one of the books that you wrote. I think, I don't know how many, but I know the one that when I learned about you for the first time was the little book of WOW. So that is something amazing as well. So let's just quickly talk about the standard stuff, because we didn't get time to talk about standards. One of the things that I know that you've done in the UK is the standards for paraplanning.
Yes.
Because paraplanning in South Africa, I think, is still a novel idea for many, and I'm making a broad assumption here. Just from my experience working with a lot of guys, and also being involved in some of the businesses starting paraplanning and that. So as far as that is concerned, what is the role of paraplanning? Is it a profession that's really growing and that you think is going to become internationally much more front and center, and almost it's going to be one of those things that you have to have in your business? But how do you see that profession evolving? And then, what are the kind of standards that one should consider around paraplanning?
Okay, so you've heard me talk about how important planners are to me, their lives, their well-being. And one of the things over the last 20 years that I've seen is that obviously as regulation has increased, the amount of paperwork, the amount of research needed, the amount of analysis that's needed has almost become so overwhelming that it's stopping planners planning, right? So the reason that this really all came about and right at the early doors was because if you take two sides of a financial planner, right, you've got the advice, the planning piece, and then alongside it, sitting almost side by side, you've got the technical. So if you've got two parts of your brain, you've got the people bit of the brain and the processing bit of the brain, right? So what I could see was that planners were absolutely killing themselves off because they couldn't do it all. And that then lent itself to, well, what is that other side of that job, i.e. the technical bit, which they're running out of time to do. And that's where paraplanning came in. So obviously, I've been aware of paraplanners in some form over the last 20 years, but really it was a mess. Like, some countries would call them something else, and another would call them technical client services administrators. I mean, it was a cobbled together mismatch of all sorts. So we decided then to define what a paraplanner was. We created it as an international standard. So the paraplanner standard exists and it's applicable to every country in the world. It's got the key abilities, attributes, qualities, skills, down from time management to passion to objectivity, all the things that would make up an amazing paraplanner. And then obviously what we then do, should that person want to then be assessed against that standard in order to get the designation of an international certified professional paraplanner, that's the global standard of paraplanning. And when I actually spoke in Hawaii in a group of planners, top end high producing planners, and there was this guy staring at me in the audience, and he was a big Mexican. He scared the life out of me as he kind of hurtled towards me at the end of the presentation, and I did it on paraplanning, and the title was Unleash Your New Superpower, and I was speaking to planners, and this guy came up to me and he was like, "Is this real?" And I was like, "What?" He was like, "This role, is this real?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he went, "I've got 42 of them sitting in my office. They're all called financial advisors and they can't sell." And I was like, "Yes, that's exactly who this is." He bought 42 copies of this document, one for each of them. And he's transitioned 42 people from being mediocre, probably quite bad planners and advisors into top of their game paraplanners, because they're more technical than they are sales. And in an industry where we've put planners on a pedestal, so much, paraplanning should not and should stop being seen as like the understudy job, the job that you do if you can't sell. Yes, that was what that guy said to me, but those two roles sitting side by side, it's incredibly powerful. Let the people who are good at the technical do the technical, and you get in front of them clients and change the lives of clients face to face. Do that. So it's probably my most proudest professional achievement, and I work with some amazing people. I mean, even Kerbis, our friend, he had input on that standard, and came up with some incredible definitions and terminology for the standard to help it become more international. And it's a wonderful, wonderful standard. Just top end.
Great
So
stuff.
proud of it.
Where can people get hold of that standard if they want to see what it's about?
Yeah, it's just on our shop and on the standardsinternational.co.uk website. There's a shop and you can just purchase copies from there. We have a training academy for paraplanners. I mean, we've got it all. It's all there to instill standards of excellence across our profession. There's huge amounts of resources and information. But, you know, if it's anything that you just, you know, if you go on there, you can't find it, just drop us an email and we'll direct you to the, you know, to the right place. No issues.
Awesome. Michelle, then quickly tell us about the WOW workshop that's happening. When is it happening? What is the story there?
Yeah, so the WOW workshop, the equivalent in physical form is me like taking a very sparkly hand grenade, taking the pin out and throwing it into your life. So that's how we describe it. So it's a one-day workshop. It's going to be run remotely. It's going to be done. I'm going to be the host and the chair of the day. And effectively what we're going to do is we're going to share with you our best top tips, insights, more kind of what we're talking about today. It's all the information on the events page of our website and on the WOW workshop page. And what we're also doing, because it's very prominent within our families and communities at the moment and the world, is that any profits, or all profits that we make from that day are all being donated to our chosen charity, which is Phase. And they take care of the mental health of young adults in my hometown. But we're not making any money on this. We don't want to make any money, but we just want to share our WOW with our audience so that we can impact positively the lives of the young who have just been hit incredibly hard by, obviously, lockdown particularly. So so that's the WOW workshop. So it's very high energy, full on. You know, you need to have a good night's sleep before, but you know, we'd love to have as many join as possible.
Awesome. So there's the website addresses on the screen. So standardsinternational.co.uk/events. You will see it's right at the top, the WOW workshop. It's the 7th of October, you said, 7 October, right?
Yeah.
So you can go check it out to get more information there. You can book there. And see what it's all about. It is, as you said, it is a virtual event, so that makes it fantastic. And also because our time zones are so close to one another, you don't have to get up at 1 a.m. It's fine.
Wonderful.
So no excuse, absolutely no excuse. And then Michelle, if people want to get hold of you, where can they get hold of you?
I mean, obviously on social media. So I've got Little Miss WOW Facebook. We're on LinkedIn as Little Miss WOW, Michelle Hoskin. And you can pretty much find me all over. The website obviously has got more information and obviously our social media links. I love connecting with people. So if anybody wants to reach out with me personally to share stories, you know, I have access to, I do respond to my own email. So just reach out at Michelle@standardsinternational.co.uk, and we're family. We're one big global family, and we have to look after each other. And you know, it's my life's work, and it's an absolute pleasure to do what I do. So, and I wouldn't want to do this for anybody else. No other industry is ever going to have me. This is it, I'm saying.
Okay, so you are solely financial services. Awesome, good stuff, Michelle. Thank you so much. Again, this feels like lockdown. It's just 3 months gone. So this is an hour gone. So thank you very much for joining us and for everything that you shared. I really look forward to keeping in touch with you. And you'll be actually at the FPI virtual conference, right?
I will, yes. Although I have to say, I've been waiting to come to South Africa for 42 years. I get booked to come to South Africa.
So you've never been here?
Never. And then I get the email going, yeah, we're really sorry. It's going to be remote. Sorry. And I'm like, God, damn, my daughter. Even Ruby was coming with me. She was like, "Can we go and see the elephants?" I'm like, "Yeah." No,
I think we should start a Kickstarter campaign for you to get you to South Africa.
Petition, please.
Good stuff, Michelle. Michelle, from me and everybody that watched, thank you so much. It was awesome, and I wish you a fantastic journey for the rest of the year. And hopefully, we'll run into one another somewhere in cyberspace at least. And,
will.
Keep on doing the good work that you're doing.
Thank you. I will. Promise.
Cool stuff. Guys, thank you very much. I'll see you on Tuesday. Cheers.